Well, thank you for that warm welcome. I'm so happy to be here today, especially happy that y'all arranged for a perfectly beautiful day for me to wander around campus. So thank you for that. So I'd like to know who's in my audience. Who here are professors, educators? Raise your hand. Who are students? Hi, students. Who are enter other profession here? Okay. People who work in other departments, administrators, that kind of thing. Thank you. So yes, I am lucky enough to be the Chief Program Officer for Catholic Social Services. It's a joy to work there, and it's been a challenge to work there too. So I would be remiss in this presentation if I didn't give a little plug for my hometown team, Catholic Social Services. So we have been around for 78 years. That's a really long time to be in the community. What I like to say is we get to be around for that period of time because people trust us, because people know we do good work. This is our mission, motivated by faith. Everything we do is based in faith. We help to serve the poor and vulnerable seniors and their families reach their potential. These are our values: compassion, impact, courage, and excellence. They're not always easy to live. They're not always easy to live in a divided secular world. Our services, we have sort of two branches of services at this point in time. We have our family support services, which includes case management, which includes a welcoming community center called Our Lady of Guadalupe Center. She's one of our flagship centers right now. You probably have heard of her. It's a wonderful place where we welcome new citizens, new Americans to the United States. The staff is completely bilingual, which is super cool, which basically means they can say all sorts of stuff I don't understand because I speak French as my second language, not super useful. We have the St. Francis Center in Portsmouth, Ohio, and we have a program called the Stay the Course program, which is a college persistence program to help people who are Pell eligible to persist in college, because we all know that education is a great way out of poverty, not only for the person in this generation, but for subsequent generations. Additionally, we have some senior services. We run a foster grandparent program, a money management program, payee services, a senior companion program, service coordination programs, supportive services programs, and transportation programs. Catholic Social Services currently has a territory that is the same size and dimension as the diocesan counties, which is 23 counties in central and southern Ohio. We are currently going through a bold Growing with Purpose strategy plan. We want to be bigger and bolder in the next 5 to 10 years so that we can serve twice as many people as we serve, twice as many God's people in various places. So you'll hear more about that in the years to come. I just want that on the horizon, that we intend to grow massively and do way more good work for God's people. So one of the things I like to say to people is, when you're doing the work of God, you cannot do crappy work. You can't do mediocre work. I have no intention of getting on the other side and someone saying, did you do Jesus' work? Mostly. Some days I was pretty mediocre at it, but I tried, right? No one wants to get to the other side when you have chosen a path of faith to work in a faith-based place, to have to get to the other side and tell Jesus, you did sort of mediocre work for his people. So along those lines, we have to, as individuals, as a community of faith, and this is a moral community and a community of faith, we have to talk about how we walk with our neighbor. It's not enough necessarily to just be beside your neighbor. There are relationship things that can enliven and enrich that relationship. So we're going to talk about how we should walk with our neighbors in a reciprocal nature. Now, I do want to say, this presentation is a little bit of a departure for me, right? I have a PhD. I like research. I like things that make sense. I like theoretical frameworks. That feels really comfortable to me. This is a little bit of a stretch for me because I feel like I'm talking about my faith and the experience of my faith and the work that I've done across the years. So please know there's a vulnerability in this. There's a vulnerability in being part of this moral community. So I don't know who here is a fan of Pink, the singer, but she has a song, and the song, quote, I love this song. I actually really love Pink, the color and the singer. And basically her song says, that's all I know so far, right? That's all I know so far. This is a presentation about, this is all I know so far. Have you ever felt, and I do this on a daily basis, have you ever woken up and said, Jesus, I would do what you tell me to do. Can you please just be clear about it? A memo would be nice, bulleted with numbers. I'll follow it, I promise. But I don't know how to do this. I don't feel qualified to do this, Lord. Help me through it. Send me the memo. Have you ever woken up in the morning, and I do this routinely, and I probably shouldn't. I walk my dog every morning for a half an hour. It's really good for him, it's really good for me. And I go, Jesus, I have a big presentation today. Can you help me with that? Jesus, I have to have a hard conversation with the staff person today. Can you help me with that? Jesus, there's this financial thing going on. Can you help me with that? And I treat Jesus as if he is my personal assistant, right? You promised that if I was in relationship with you that you would help me with these things. So here's my laundry list of things I need to have done today. And I need you to help me with them. Maybe I'm unique in that regard, but I kind of doubt it. I think maybe there are other people who approach their relationship with the Lord that way sometimes. And many people, and I am a social worker and an ethicist, and I work with a lot of people who are in the helping professions. We get into the helping professions like nursing, education, social work, because we want to give. We want to give to people. We want to help people. We want to provide the intervention that makes their lives better. We do it with gusto, and we do it for God, right? So there's this balance where we're trying to do all these things for God. We're asking God to be the person who handles things for us as a personal assistant. And we forget this deep concept of reciprocity. So reciprocity, simply stated, is the practice of exchanging things with others for the mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one organization or another. Let's unpack that a little bit. I'm going to tell you a story that hopefully will make you laugh and horrified all at the same time. When I was a newly minted ethicist, which was my early midlife crisis, and I had small children, I was so excited. I'm like, I was a social worker, now I'm an ethicist, I get to serve more of God's people. I was an ethicist at a Catholic healthcare hospital in Pittsburgh. UPMC Mercy is the only Catholic hospital. I was the ethicist. God let me be an ethicist. This was super cool. I was gonna go in with gusto and do great stuff. I got my first ethics consult. I was very excited, super excited. I'd go into the patient's room. Generally, these are around end-of-life decision-making. And I just had it all. And I walked in and I said, "Good morning, how are you?" And she looked at me and she pulled back and she said, "Well, according to the physicians, I'm still terminally ill." Oh. Wah, wah, wah. Right? I went in, I'm gonna do great things, I'm gonna do great things for God. And she shut me down in a heartbeat. There's the rest of the story that I will share with you later. That was a point of real humility for me. That was a point of your hubris just got in the way of a relationship. Your desire and your gusto to do good for God just got in the way of doing good for God. So hold on to that for a little bit. It taught me an enormous amount. What I was trying to do in that moment was to instill hope. I was trying to say, I'm here to help you through this very difficult and very sacred thing that you have to go through. And I handled it terribly. So what does our faith call us to do with regard to hope? What has Pope Francis said we should do with regard to hope? He has said that at this time we are in great need of hope. Social organizations and associations, as well as individuals who strive towards acceptance and sharing, are great generators of hope. Acceptance and sharing. When you talk about sharing, there's an inherent reciprocity in this. So how do we, as people of faith, as people who work with other people, as people who want to put goodness in the world and make it a better place, how do we instill hope? How do we do that? So the Pope, when he was doing some traveling in Budapest, said that our life should be a pilgrimage of hope. Specifically, he said, dear brothers and sisters, this hope of the gospel that I was able to see in this journey can only be realized and made concrete if it is expressed in another word, and that word is together. Hope never disappoints. Hope never goes alone, but it always goes together. Together and sharing assume a reciprocity. It assumes that as the newly minted bioethicist who just wanted to do good stuff, that there's a humility that goes with that sharing, with that reciprocity in order to develop hope. So what is the theology of hope? Hope is, in its wildest expectation, is described as the desire of something together with the expectation of attaining it. It is an infused virtue. It's an infused virtue. We don't hear that very often. Well, how does that make hope different than other virtues? Who here has studied Aristotle? Yeah, lots of us have studied. So how do we develop virtue, right? There's a whole thing about how we develop virtue, and that we have to practice and we have to get to the mean between the extremes. And then there's a guy from the ethics world he's a Scottish ethicist. His name is Alistair McIntyre. He did a lot of work in developing virtue in medicine, because we all want our medical people to be virtuous, right? How do we develop virtue? So he's done an enormous amount of work in that area. He's 95 years old now, and he's pretty amazing if you ever want to read some stuff. He wrote a book called After Virtue in 1981. It's still very relevant. But infused virtue is different than those virtues. Infused virtue is virtue that's given by God to the faithful to make them capable of acting as God's children. Infused virtue is something that is given by God. Can we grow it? Can we develop it? Perhaps, but perhaps not in the same ways as other virtues. The other infused virtues are faith and charity. So those are virtues given to us specifically by God. So who here has heard of Catholic social teaching? Yay. I love Catholic social teaching. I think it's the best, most underutilized, underrecognized work in our church. Catholic social teaching, really the themes of Catholic social teaching, and these are taken from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, frames how we should operationalize things. So this version has 7, the life and the dignity of the human person, which means we're all made in the image and likeness of God. Call to family, community, and participation. We're all part of community. In this instance, we're part of this moral community who's learning and growing and traveling on this Lenten path together. not only as humans do we have rights, but we have responsibilities. That there's an option for the poor and the vulnerable. They should get stuff first because they need it most. The dignity of work and the rights of workers, solidarity, and care for God's creation. So these things frame this hopeful vision of what it means to be human, to flourish as a human. If we do these things in God's world, we will flourish and have the conditions of human flourishing, thus infusing hope into the world. If you take the 7 themes of Catholic social teaching, they sort of boil down into these key principles: human dignity, solidarity, and subsidiarity. Human dignity, as we know, is that everyone is made in the image and likeness of God. Whether you look like me, whether you live like me, whether you speak like me, or you are totally different than me, you have also been formed in the image and likeness of God. It's our job to find that. You cannot find that without a reciprocal relationship from humility. Solidarity. It means we should stand with those for what's right. It's that we should stand and be with our neighbor as they travel along the path. You don't pick someone up and leave them there. You pick someone up and you help them to get somewhere new and different and better. New and different and better. And subsidiarity. Solidarity, subsidiarity is basically making the decisions at the lowest level where they can be made. So if you take the 7 themes of Catholic social teaching, they boil down to these 3 key principles. So how do we take this infused hope, this infused virtue of hope, and operationalize it? We operationalize it using these principles that come out of the themes of Catholic social teaching. So we started this conversation with waking up in the morning, giving God your laundry list, hoping for a memo so that you can get it all right. And we talked about serving other people and instilling hope. What if we're missing part of the message that we're supposed to be hearing because we're not listening for it, because we're not attuned to it? And I went into that room full of gusto, wanting to do the right thing for this person. I didn't go in there with a humble heart. I went in there with an agenda. But relationships and walking with your neighbor in the true way that Jesus, I believe, intends, and the lessons I've learned, is to allow reciprocity to occur. So I remember one day when someone said to me, well, when we serve our clients, we should not only be giving to them, but we should be receiving from them. Ooh, that did not feel right. That didn't, they're already one down. How am I going to receive from them? Isn't that too great of an expectation to say, I'm a social worker, I'm gonna give you this, but then I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna wait to see what I receive from you. What do you have to give me? However, what I've learned along this road is not only are we to feed people and clothe people and move people more closely to God, but the true way in which we honor the image of God in the people we serve, whether they're patients, whether they're students, whether they're participants in our program, is to allow their dignity to shine through and allow them to give us the gift that they carry. Sometimes when people are so disheartened, they don't even realize they still have gifts to share. So in serving people, in walking with our neighbors, in the fact of reciprocity in that word, we should be perhaps getting the message from God, the memo from God that we get daily, delivered through other people, and we're not allowing the reciprocity to occur. if we don't allow their gifts to shine, if we don't help them to manifest their gifts, we are not truly honoring the image and likeness of God in them. It is about more than feeding them and clothing them and getting them into a safe space. It is about allowing their natural gifts from God because they're in there. They may not even know they have them anymore, but allowing space for those to come to the surface and honoring those as they do come to the surface. It is in that way that we are truly in a reciprocal relationship with our neighbors. Because but for the grace of God, tomorrow I could be the person in need, right? Last week, I may have been the person in need, and someone recognized God in me and said, you have these gifts, and I accept your gifts. So let's circle back to the lady with the terminal cancer and how that resolved itself. I am happy to say that when I went home that day, well, I felt really crappy. That wasn't the good thing. But the next day, I got up, and before I walked in her room and screwed it up yet again, I stopped and I asked the Holy Spirit to give me the right words. I asked the Holy Spirit to help me to be humble and to receive what she was giving me, and to be there for her and to help her to make the most out of the end of her life. I am happy to say that she passed peacefully. We ultimately developed a really solid relationship for the several weeks she was in the hospital on hospice. And she thanked me at one point because she said to me, you have made the last part of my life important because you let me teach you something. Because you let me share my gifts of my experience with you, and that has meant that my death and my passing in this time that is so sad, it has meaning for me. It had meaning for her, and it made me a better ethicist. I wasn't always attuned to needing to be humble enough to receive the gifts and to help people manifest their gifts so that they can see them in the work that I do. I try harder now to do that. I don't always do it perfectly, but when I look at this memo that I want from God every morning, please help me do these things, please take care of these things, please let me get there safely and find the room, and please help me be a better Christian, a better social worker, a better ethicist, a better chief program officer. The memo that is being sent lies in receiving the gifts that the people I'm trying to serve and help are manifesting. And the reciprocity in that relationship requires a vulnerability that's hard. Some days that's just really hard. You don't want to receive the gift. You don't want to go deeper. You don't want to be in that uncomfortable space. But that, if we are truly recognizing people and instilling hope in people's lives in difficult times, that is where we truly recognize the image and likeness of God. It's only partly in the food. It's only partly in the intervention. It is in the relationship, and good relationships should be reciprocal. So this is an institute of higher learning. So what are the purposes of education? Okay, for all of you true academics out there who may teach this stuff, there are many permutations of the purposes of education. I just picked one because it served my purpose. Personal, cultural, economic, and social. Under social, it is helping young people to become active and compassionate citizens. I have a lot of staff who work for me. I've done teaching. I still do some teaching stuff at the University of Pittsburgh. This thought of reciprocity, this thought of how do we develop a more robust moral community, how do I really see the image and likeness of God in people that I serve and allow reciprocity to occur, so that people can share their gifts from God is something we have to teach to the people with whom we interact. It's a journey. There's a steep learning curve. But if we frame this from the standpoint of reciprocity as a faith community and honoring the image and likeness of God, we're going to do richer, deeper, better work for God's people. So it is incumbent upon us in this moral community to begin to look at things a little bit differently, to begin to see opening up this vision of reciprocity, giving this space for reciprocity and teaching people how to approach it as being the true honor of respecting the image and likeness of God. We are all called to do that. We can help so that people don't have to learn the hard way, like I've had to learn a couple of times, but we make this part of how we operationalize what we do when we focus on education. I just love this. It just makes me happy. I don't know. This little woman going, please send help, please send help. And she thinks she's gotten her message. She thinks she's gotten her message, and then this big old bird comes along and eats it. So what do I mean by this? Maybe when we think of a different way of doing this, a different way of getting people help, we include this concept of how do we elevate, bring to the surface, maximize people's gifts, and in a truly reciprocal relationship. So I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a story from one of our clients in the Stay the Course program, which I mentioned earlier. It is a college persistence program that we currently have with Columbus State for Pell-eligible students. Michelle Van Dyke over here, no relation, merely a weird coincidence, is the program director for that program. So this program at Columbus State is a college persistence program that helps Pell-eligible students sort of handle the social problems of being a student, like homelessness happens, transportation, bad stuff happens. There are the non-academic things that can make someone go off course and not finish their college degree. So I'm going to tell you this story that is one of true reciprocity with a client we'll call Mitchell. He plans to graduate from Columbus State with an associate degree in culinary arts and a certificate in entrepreneurship this spring. In fact, in a month and a half, right? Something like a month and a half. Spring of 2024. He wants to start his own gourmet food business. When he came to us in this program, I remember having conversations with Michelle about what a difficult person he was. He didn't trust anybody. He was self-sabotaging. He was doing all of those things that sometimes people do, and they've lost confidence in themselves and they've come across hardship. He was in our Stay the Course program, and we didn't give up on him. The social worker who cared for him, who walked alongside him as a neighbor, held him accountable in a loving way. We work in this thing called a strengths mapping, where we go, hey, you're good at this, and you're good at this other thing, instead of oh, it's too bad you don't know how to do that. It's too bad you're a loser in that regard, right? We all have those places. We start from the standpoint of what are you good at? What are your gifts already? And we build on those. This was a gentleman who was very angry at the universe. He was acting out all over the place. He would end up in prison. It's hard to go to school when you're in jail. Who ended up living in his car at one point, who had terrible relationships with his family. And still, we knew what his strengths were, and we tried to act from his strengths and build on his strengths. Over the course of his time in the program, which has now been a couple of years, he started in August of 2021, given consistent support and love and openness and reciprocity, he learned how to slow down and step away from situations that would have in the past caused him to drink way too much, get way too angry, be aggressive, and end up in jail. He was homeless, he lived in motels, he lived in his car, he had bad housing, but he was determined, because of a reciprocal relationship, to stay engaged in the Stay the Course program. So with the help of this program, some emergency assistance, he connected with the Small Business Administration, and he's now working with a case manager to create his own gourmet ice cream. How cool is that? So he's going to be graduating in just a couple of months. He now has hope. He now knows what his gifts are from God, because we worked from strengths, because we walked alongside with him humbly and allowed his gifts to come to the surface, truly honoring the image of God in him. Not just that he needed emergency assistance, not just that he needed to talk to somebody, but here are your strengths. Here are the gifts that God has given you. We see them, we recognize them. We want to help you figure out how to use them. So where's the reciprocity? Kelly and Michelle and I sat in a meeting with him, and he was telling his story. And it was so lovely. It was so beautiful. It was so just resplendent with, like, God's been here. God's been walking all over this path with this person. And there wasn't a person in that room who wasn't moved to the core of their faith by the story he told. There was a true reciprocity. We helped him get from where he was to where he wanted to be. We honored the gifts. We really saw the image and likeness of God in him. We elevated his gifts and told him what they were. And the reciprocity was our work with him made all of us better people, better practitioners, more humble, more able to do better work with people moving forward. That's truly what it means in the Catholic version of honoring the image and likeness of God. It is not about giving food, giving money, giving clothing. It is about seeing the gifts that someone has and being able to elevate them and being able to receive them. That's the reciprocity in these relationships. That's when we're truly doing God's work. So, as we close this, I want to give you a couple of things to think about, because social workers are uber practical, and we want people to be able to operationalize things. And as part of a moral community, I want you, as you leave today, as you talk amongst yourselves, to think about how you might be limiting true reciprocity in relationships with those you work and with those you serve. How are you limiting reciprocity? Have you even thought about reciprocity in the way we've talked about today? I didn't for a really long time, and I still get in my own way. The second thing I'd like you to think about is, where might our God be inviting us to be more humble so that we can receive all of the gifts which are intended for us as we live in community? Be humble enough to receive and humble enough to give. Be humble enough to embark on the work that you do in a richer space with the spirit of reciprocity, so that we can all truly see and honor the image and likeness of God in the people that we serve. Thank you for letting me share some time with you.
We have some time to open it up if there are any comments or questions that you would like to direct to Amy, or maybe some of your own stories of reciprocity.
I would love to hear those. Yes?
This is not related to reciprocity, but is your PhD in social work too?
No, my PhD is in ethics. My master's degree is in social work. So I actually wasn't interested in a PhD in social work. It was a little more limiting than a PhD in ethics. And for me, I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but what I found as a practicing social worker is I was doing a whole lot of ethics stuff, like around end-of-life decision-making, working with physicians, and I had no idea how I was supposed to be doing that. And so it did not feel right to me to have a conversation with someone about end-of-life decision-making when I didn't know what the ethical decision-making frameworks were, both secular and faith-based. So I looked for a program that would give me that, have made it part of my role, hopefully, to be able to give that back to people, because as social workers, we're taught the NASW Code of Ethics, and it is National Social Workers Month in March. So kudos to social workers and all the social workers serving. But the focus on ethics is generally about professional ethics, which is one very small lens of ethics. Michelle Van Dyke, would you like to answer that question?
So we currently have capacity for 120. We have 3 full-time staff, so that makes 40 students per navigator. We find that beyond that, it lessens the time and the commitment that we can give per student. So, a different model might say 1 advisor serves 300 students, but that's kind of a check-in. And so with our smaller group, we would love to grow the program so that we could hire more navigators, but that's the model we want to follow.
So we do some pretty intensive stuff in this program where we help students to set their own goals, and then we teach them how to critically think through what a goal is, what are the action steps you need to get from here to there, not like those ads that says, start this wall Pilates program and you can lose 42 pounds by next month. That's not realistic. And so we try to take the goal that is a student's goal, which may be saving enough money to move to a new place. It may be enter goal here, applying for a certificate program, looking for an internship. We break those down into tangible action steps and the navigators help guide through those action steps to sort of ensure that someone's always cheering for you, always coaching you, and always sort of pushing you gently and lovingly in the right direction, the one that you chose. Other questions or comments? Well, hearing none, I want to once again thank you for being able to spend this time together on this Lenten journey to become better people, more godlike people, and I wish you all the best as you continue this journey and in the days ahead. Thank you.